The question and answers for the Starlancer TAC has just been released on the Star Citizen site at robertspaceindustries.com. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thank you to my long-term subscribers for sticking around. So there's a lot of question marks with the Starlancer series, and particularly about the TAC because it's coming up in 2025, and we just got the Starlancer Max, the cargo variant. So let's just dive right into it. When they were talking about the type of launching systems, note that they're bespoke quad launchers that are on the entire series. There was some questions about remote operations of these turrets, and they also have a question about blades deeper in we'll go into. But what they state is that the remote operated missile turrets are currently exclusive to the TAC, and they are controlled by the co-pilot. And they're at the rear of the ship near the ramp. Now, what I want to say about this is that there is plenty of weapon systems on this ship. The TAC issue has never been weapons, but one thing that I did notice was the coverage issues on the Max, particularly on the top two the remote turrets that are operated from the cockpit or bridge. It's technically big enough to have a bridge. But the top turrets have a full 180-degree arc on the TAC, and the TAC has a quote additional coverage with the rear remote missile turrets covering the rear and lower section from behind. This was an issue for the Max, where the two turrets cannot converge their fire because of this little fin structure thing that's put between them. And additionally, I noted that there was no turret on the bottom of belly of the ship. So that's an issue for defending the ship, obviously. People can sit from below and antagonize the vessel, especially if you're solo. If the Max was solo, you'd have a problem. Depending on the type of target, how fast they can stay and maintain transversal on you, where they keep spinning at an exact rate so they stay below you while they're doing damage and destroying systems. On the TAC, they have the additional missile systems, so they're able to go and just pound missiles into the enemy that's trying to play that game. And also, we're going to go into their armor, but it has additional armor to assist, particularly because it's a slower ship. All the Starlancers are slower. So, do any of the TAC's turrets have an overlapping fire arc? The top two turrets have some overlap on their firing arcs, and they're talking about like we talked about with the fin system on the Max. It is missing from the TAC. In that space, that's where the Fury hangar is, or just about that range, so the turrets can converge fire. That is important, because if you have a single operator of the turret, so you don't have enough people to run both remote turrets at the same time, one turret can in theory help defend the ship. And additionally, if you're blessed with having two players or blades to run those, we're going to go into that in a little bit, you would turn around and have the ability to converge fire. So that means doubling the DPS on the enemy targets, killing them quicker, destroying them quicker, or making them run away quicker, so less damage to your ship. And also helpfully defending the Fury hangar. So you have this big gaping hole on the top of the ship. The last thing you want to do is leave it open any longer than necessary, and it's nice to have turrets defending it when it is open to help the Fury safely get in and out of the ship, and also prevent visitors coming into the ship through that said opening when it's open. So the pair of size 4 twin-linked weapon systems, they're on the sides of the ship, so they're towards the front, and they're in all the pictures, and I don't know why this question's here, but it's talking about their weapon hardpoints. And this ship, once again, has plenty of weapon hardpoints, but not utility hardpoints. And they gave the example of the Freelancer and the Starfarer. They're weapons mounted to the sides of the ship, and they are designed to hit things from the cockpit. Will the Starlancer computer capacity, particularly from the pilot seat, just to be clear, computer's capacity allow for two dorsal remote turrets to be bladed? So what they're asking about is those two turrets on top. Can you turn those remotes into bladed turrets? And the answer is yes, at least based on what the current implementation is intended. Additionally, as we talked about before, the TAC has better armor. So this is something that they did not clarify until the Q&A. And because it has a second size 3 shield compared to the single size 3 shield on the other two variants, the Max and the BLD, and on top of that, it will have this better armor. It is going to be extraordinarily tanky. So it's going to be a slower ship for its size, but incredibly tanky, even if it just has one armor grade higher. So traditionally, we've had like light armor, medium armor, heavy armor. If the other ships have light armor, this has medium, or the other ships have medium and this has heavy armor, that makes a critical difference, especially on a ship of this size, because anything armored of these sizes, you'll need larger size weaponry to even penetrate. And then on top of that, having heavier armor means you have to do more damage to it to actually cut through and start actually killing things on the ship, destroying things on the ship, such as power plants and shield generators and things. Well, the shield emitters might be able to be damaged or destroyed, but the point is that the rest of the vessel will be protected much better. So it is designed to drop players in via Storm or Ursa. More on that in a moment. And as players on foot with their medium and heavy armors and such, and then jump out. And part of that package is a pair of side gunner doors on top of the drop. So the drop seats, there's 8 drop seats, and then there's 2 weapons, one pointed each direction, much like the Valkyrie, but they're much closer together because it's dropping out of the elevator. Additionally, I like the fact that the person working these weapon systems is only exposed when they open the door. That means that they're not riding the whole ride down exposed, where they can easily be picked off or people start noticing where the targets are and such. They're only exposed to danger when they're needed to. So they're supposed to protect people stepping off to use their drop seats, where they have to hop out of the chair, they have to grab their 2-hand weapon that's sitting in the rack just to the left of their chair, and then run off the ship. So being able to have it where they have their mounted weapon system on both sides, be able to fire out fire, not converging fire, but suppressing fire, and then be able to get these guys off, it is very useful for your men and women of the drop crew. And on there is also noted that there is some style things, such as these large canisters they refer to, and they are not some special loading mechanism like the Freelancer MIS has, where you can actually see the missiles being loaded in faster and loaded back into the cartridges. They're basically saying just, that's for show. This whole setup is for show. It's for rule of cool, but you will be able to rearm the ballistics from the ship via the equivalent of mini freight elevators. So there will be these small risers. Now, we saw bigger versions of that in the Polaris recently, where there's 2 hangar style elevators that go from the cargo bay up to the hangar, and that would allow you to rearm your ships that are sitting in the hangar, for example. Those mini elevators, I think those angled elevators is the best way to think of it. Whether they're angled or not doesn't really matter. I think it's just going to have a little gate on the ground. You walk up, you press it, and humans, and as well as components and weapons, can be shuttled up and down. In this case, it would be ammunition for the most part, and maybe some relays, because it seems like CIG is obsessed with putting relays in really awkward positions, not just in engineering, not just putting a person or an NPC in engineering and saying, okay, that's what their job is. The relays are all over the ship, in habitation areas, in near crew messes, and weapon areas. So I would not be shocked if the room that has the 2 manned size 5 turrets would also have a relay or 2. So once again, your gunners would probably have to be educated on that and have to be stocked with relays just in case one of them pops. Because the last thing you want is somebody running all the way across the ship when they're like, the guy's right there. They can just pile out slap in with their multi-tool the relay and be done with it. And does it come with a Fury? And the answer is no. Although it can fit the Fury, it is designed for the Fury. It is not like the Carrack situation, where the Carrack comes with the C8 Pisces. And fun fact, the Carrack in the past did not come with the C8X, the better Pisces that comes with all 4 size 1 weapons. It came with the one with the C8 Pisces that only came with 2 size 1 weapons, but still had the 2 size 1 hardpoints. Additional hardpoints, I should say. for weapons. And there was an upgrade path when they came out with the C8X, where they said, okay, look, if you spend like $20 more or something, you can have the Carrack Expedition, I think it was called. I have one and I barely remember it. And it gives you the C8X Pisces variant, which has all 4 size 1 weapons. So when it comes with the proper equipment for a fully equipped Pisces without you having to go in game and equip it. In this case, they're saying we do not give you a Fury. There is no neutered Fury or something like that, or special Fury for the TAC. They all fit, but it's your choice, but you have to go actually buy it. And that's definitely a good buying game, by the way, is buying your Fury for this. And for the record, the Fury MX is an excellent choice for this vessel, because having the Fury Missile Boat edition is really, really powerful, depending on server latency. And that probably will get better over time. But its big problem is once you fire all the different missiles, it's just a floating ball in space. It, has no offensive armament that's really worth mentioning after it pops its missiles. So what do? Well, if you have this large ship you're supporting, you go back to the ship and get more missiles. And now, granted, you would need at least an NPC or some automated system to do rearm refueling and such, but I could definitely see a great symbiotic relationship that really actually punches above its weight, to use the marketing term they love to use. It actually would, because the big balancing thing for that vessel is that it can't just keep re-equipping missiles. And then the traditional Fury, it's the base Fury, of course, is good too, which also has some missiles, is worth mentioning, as well as having its cannons on board, so it's able to actually fire its weapons without having to reload every time. So if the ship is busy, whatever. But they're both good options. I don't think you want the racing variant, but for this type of stuff, but for attack, but whatever. Does the TAC come with a specific hangar for ground vehicles? And then it talks about, can we store additional vehicles? And it notes it has the same exact storage area, cargo area in the back as its sister ships, the BLD and the Max. And it notes that the ramp is big enough to accommodate a Tumbril Storm. And I've personally had some people mention that the Storm is very buggy trying to get it into the Max. I have, on my video, I committed to just saying it can fit an Ursa just to be safe, but it sounds like CIG is committed to allowing a Storm to fit on all 3 ships. For the record, a Nova would not fit, if you're wondering, or a Ballista or anything like that. They're too tall. That's the problem with a lot of them. The ships are balanced around the height of the area, not just the width. And the Storm is very wide, ironically. The Storm is wide enough where if technically width-wise, a Nova would probably fit, but it's just too damn tall. So it is interesting to note that a Tumbril Storm is symbiotic with the TAC, but also you could fit a Storm on the Max or the BLD, which is quite nice. And now, I do want to note that I've only tested that you can get full cargo, your 96 SCU in the rear cargo bay, on the Max with an Ursa. I don't know if the Tumbril Storm will take up some of your cargo space, because the cargo space is like 2 strips on the left and right sides of the rear of the vessel in that space. So what you have is a situation where if you put something as big as a Storm in there, it may take up a small amount of your cargo space additional. Not enough to matter. The Storm is, having a whole tank is very nice. And don't forget, you also have the Storm AA as well. So if you want a specialist vehicle, I know they're a little buggy right now, but once again, back to the whole symbiotic nature, a Storm can just run by itself, but a Storm AA, one of the big balancing things is that it can run out of missiles. So having a giant ship with 96 SCU just hanging out right near you and fighting and stuff alongside you is an interesting concept. You could park this thing a distance away, pull the Storm AA out, have it as your safety thing, send the TAC in, and if it gets overwhelmed, race the Storm AA in, which is only requiring a single player to be tied up in that thing. And hopefully, take out 1 or 2 of the enemies, or at least scare them. Oh, where's all these missiles coming from? Oh, we got to run. Let's regroup. And then the TAC might be able to limp away towards the Storm AA, something like that. And then just sacrifice the Storm AA, because the TAC has medical. You can regen on the TAC for now. It has, remember, it's those pair of tier 3 medical beds, which their range is limited to basically think of like an environment where you can see each other type of thing. But for now, it does allow regen without any side effects. That probably will change over time. Do not anticipate long term to keep regen on a tier 3 pair of beds. But for now, it is an amazing escape card if you wanted to play that game. So you could have sacrificial Fury, you could have a sacrificial Storm or Storm AA, and literally troll the enemy without risking, you know, the TAC going down. Commit those other ships and use the TAC as support and thread the needle to get people in, and then get the TAC back to safe distances. It's kind of, that's my thought with this ship. Even though it is slow, it's just such a brick that you could go and recharge your shields and then come back over again and do another drive air, clearing the area that you've dropped people to help them out again and again and again, and just keep repeating and repeating. That's kind of my thought on that. Starlancer's TAC's lower middle section is significantly different than the Max's. So they're asking about the ground lift. It has the drop bay. I don't know why this question's here. You will be able to put players in the drop seats at the weirdest situation. You could have people just sit in the seats and just click up and put them, move the drop bay for the drop seats back up, and then you're back into the ship. So I don't, and then you also don't forget have the rear ramp. I know some people are really hesitant about leaving a rear ramp down because it has a habit of you keep forgetting it, and then a random player wanders on board and causes havoc. You do have medical though, so even if somebody gets the jump on you, I would leave a couple shotguns sitting inside medical, and then just, you know, devastate your way back out to reducing the problem if it's just some random troll. But I think if you want to be more disciplined with your crew and you want to be absolutely sure who's on the ship and who is not, you could leave the ramp up whenever not in use, and then have the drop bay be used as your elevator on and off the ship. I think that's fine, honestly. I'm not quite sure what the issue is otherwise. You got to remember, it comes from the Freelancer series, so like that back ramp is really meant to be like the way on and off the ship is like the most common way when you're not using the docking collar, when you're not using your airlock. So Starlancer TAC is not a modular ship. You can't change it. It's noting that there's a ton of weapon mounts, not utility mounts. So people are asking, can we put on, you know, things like tractor beams? Can we put on things like prisoner pods? And they're saying, well, no, whatever is required of a utility mount, you would not have access to that. TAC is slower compared to other ships, as we talked about earlier, and it is initially designed for cargo hauling on the platform. So Starlancer Max was the original design, and then they said, what if we can spice this up for combat? And then they were like, well, what if we can put, you know, large construction drones in this thing? What else can we fit in here? So it is slower, but they do note the sturdiness of that. And the important thing is that it has a dedicated combat ship that is designed to have higher armor than its sister vessels. And one thing that did surprise me was that it had 25% increase in quantum fuel capacity over the base variant, bringing it up to 1.5 SCU. This is already a higher tier than other ships in terms of capacity. Now, I want to finesse this a little bit. Because it has the heavier armor, what you need to remember is if it has the heavier armor, then it is going to possibly have an issue when it comes to being heavier getting in and out of Atmo. So one of the theories about balancing armor is that it will be harder on your VTOLs, and at the very least require more fuel to do the exact same drop as you would then with a Crusader vessel or an RSI Connie, for example. You know, if there was a Super Connie that was the same size, like if ship for ship, if they were the exact same size, this ship would consume more fuel than its sister vessels, and it certainly would consume a lot more fuel than a VTOL capable ship designed to go through Atmo very, very effectively. And that is one of the problems I want to stress that I think people are overlooking about this mention. So it does have that 25% increase in quantum field capacity. But because it is able to absorb fire better than other similar ships and have armor and such that is better, there is a limitation. Things come with balance in this game. And that is my speculation, but there's no other way around it. There's going to be balance of the heavy armors and medium armors and such, and if you have a more armored ship, you will pay the fuel toll at the very least. So I think this is an indicator of things to come. It's not supposed to signal that this ship is meant to travel the verse further than its sister ships. It needs this fuel to get on and off of planet and moon side in any type of serious gravities without running out of fuel, without it being like, you know, considered like, so, oh my goodness, we just went once or twice planet side and now we're out of fuel. That's something to remember. The Starlancer TAC comes with the rear ramp, front lifts, side jump doors, docking collar, and Fury hangar doors. And like I said, I really like the idea of using the jump. It might just be because it's novel, but the jump seat drop ship area I really like, especially if there's a surprise down there. You can jump on a manned gun real fast and handle it, or just raise the elevator again. It's rare to have that type of capability right there at your fingertips. I wouldn't be shocked if people just leave two-hand weapons in the jump seat, one or two of the jump seat stations too, so you have those portables, including, by the way, one of the few things you can do utility on this vessel, having two-hand tractor beams just sitting there, so you could put your max lifts and just leave them in there. Additionally, a precious Q&A question was wasted on a docking collar question, and yes, the Starlancer variants have a small docking collar towards the front outside of the armory, so it's just behind the armory. And I wanted to note that one of the issues that I'm seeing with more and more ships is, unless they go and revise it and say, oh, they all have air shields, once we have room-based vacating of oxygen, when you have hard vacuum next to you, when you open that said docking collar to space, you will not be able to get to the suit lockers in the front. And I feel like a broken record where I just keep saying this over and over and over again, but there is no clean way, at least on the max, to get to your said armory to put in the suit lockers. And I think this ship is going to have the same problem. The ladder is inside the room with the docking collar. So if it's popped open and you're doing recovery in space or fighting an EVA or whatever the heck you're doing, you're going to have a problem of, you can't get to the suit lockers, you know, so you can join the fight or help out moving stuff or whatever it is if that door's open. So you're going to have an intense discipline on opening that door, getting people out, closing the door, communicating that that's happening so people don't come down that ladder and suffocate, or come out the elevator and suffocate. And the elevators have like a long timer where the door has a little animation and it pops open, and then you have to go close it and frantically go back up. So at the end of the day, on these type of ships like the Starlancer Max as well, you will want, and I'm guessing the BLD, what we'll see, you will want to have at least a flight suit on or light armor with a helmet on at all times, especially if you're working downstairs or intend for any reason to have to go outside. Because you cannot trust those damn suit lockers to give you any assistance at all, because most of the time, if the rest of your crew is doing something outside or going to do something, or somebody breaks into the ship, you won't be able to breathe and get to the suit lockers to be able to breathe and fully involve yourself in the activities. So that's kind of where I'm at. The bigger things that I like about this is that they did confirm that both the top turrets can be bladed. You do see that goofy little fin here, but I could have sworn on these concepts it looks like they've made it a little lower, because on the Max, the blade is like on an angle, like a little whale tail looking thing, where this is more downwards, horizontal. And I don't really know what people's mindsets are on these. Being able to confirm the Tumbril Storm is a nice touch. It seems like CIG was throwing us a bone on that one, talking about additional vehicles, because the question didn't really ask for, you know, the bigger vehicles, but that was appreciated. I think there's a lot of smaller things here that could have, like always, not needed to be put on a Q&A. You can already see on the Starlancer Max where it's going. You can already see on the pictures offered where the ship is going. And it is one of the things that I think that is noticeable is the armor. So a few different things for Q&A that are nice. One of the things, like, what countermeasures does it have? They have to say it's the same damn countermeasures, combining some questions here. That's fine. The countermeasures on the Starlancer series aren't too bad. The chaff and the flares are not too bad. Sorry, decoys and noise are not too bad. But the bigger thing that I will say is that this better armor is going to cost you fuel getting on and off side, planet side, moon side. And it more niches this ship. Even though you have the bigger fuel tank to handle the extra armor, one of the things that I like to point out about this is that it's still going to cost more to run this ship than its sister ships, if everything continues the way it seems like they want to go, where they make the armor cost more to run, cost more to repair, etc., etc. That being said, I'm sure many would advocate, and they're probably already warming up the comment section to say, well, if I have better armor, I have less repairs to do, because the stuff underneath is worth a lot more. You know, if you get a broken quantum drive, you might lose the entire ship, or if you lose life support, now the ship is stricken and has to run away until you can fix that, right? So I mean, these systems that are going to slowly but surely actually take damage from other people with big weaponry too, are out there. I mean, you've got some bruisers. This thing is going into places where there may be a Polaris, there may be there will be ships that are designed to fight a ship of this size. I think of the 600i. I think of the Corsair. These ships, especially if they have at least just one more crew person on board, oh boy, can the damage they throw out. So this thing has to brave all of that while it's committing to get its troops on the ground, its Storm or its Ursa, or maybe an Ursa would be another good example. Kind of puts it in a unique place. It's a ship designed for the front lines that's slower. And that means that this brick needs to get there in place, and it's a big target. So I'm just kind of stuck. I think this thing may get PDSs. I think it kind of needs at least one. I mean, they're giving it to the Phoenix like they were promised from the beginning, of course. They've given PDSs quietly to the 890 Jump, PDSs to the Polaris. I think this thing's going to desperately need at least one PDS to properly do its job. I don't think decoys and noise are going to do the job enough to get it in place, even with the heavy armor, even with the Parasite 3 shields. I may eat my words, but I think this ship is like the second liner. This is like you send in something else, like a pair of Eclipses, or even just guts out, put a tally on the field, knock out the critical stuff that's designed to hurt this thing, like get the jump hopefully on a ballista or something like that, and then send this thing in. Get the jump on enemy ships with torps, and then send this thing in, because it's too slow. I'm nervous about that. And its man turrets are so placed in such places that it's really designed to defend itself belly down, much like the Max, as I talked about in the Max video. It's more meant to, like, it lands, it puts its dropship down, it's got its ramp down, it's a Storm or an Ursa storming out the back of the vehicle. And by the way, a pro tip, park the vehicle backwards, so that way you can easily hop into it and then just drive right out, so you're not awkwardly trying to reverse into a combat zone. That's one of the things I see a lot of people make the mistake on. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. This is a quick one for the Starlancer TAC Q&A that just got released. Thank you to my long-term subscribers for sticking around, and have a great IAE. Take care.